At the beginning, the scene showed a classroom where a boy sat quietly reading a book, thinking that he liked this seat because he could read his light novel's alone content. He noticed the extroverts being loud as always and thought that if he had to hang out with people like them, he'd rather stay a loner, introvert, annoyed. To him, his seat was perfect that day too. His name was Ryota Izumiya, and he believed that being surrounded 2 or 3 layers deep by classmates made this corner spot truly a god-tier seat. He told himself to savor every second of it. Suddenly, someone called for attention, announcing that they were doing seat changes. Ryota froze, panic rising, thinking "wah" with a panicked expression. The girls in front said it was the first time that year, while another mentioned hearing that the class rep, Kuroki, had asked the teacher. Ryota grew irritated, angry, wondering why Kuroki had to ruin everything, thinking that for a loner like him, seat changes were all risk and no reward. A girl said she had posted the new seating chart and told everyone to check it. Someone bumped into Ryota, cheering that she was next to Suzuki, then apologized. Ryota, stunned, walked to the board, wondering where his seat had ended up. When he saw it, he was shocked, eyes wide, to find himself in the center and thought maybe he was surrounded by introverts too. But then he noticed the 3 names around him and wondered why someone like him had ended up there. He clenched his teeth, scared, thinking that being surrounded by 3 S-tier beautiful girls was, no matter how he looked at it, the worst seat possible. He overheard 2 boys saying they were jealous, one saying he'd love to be close to those 3 girls. Ryota thought they were the class center, the cast top, while he only wanted to sit quietly in a corner and enjoy his novels. To him, this was pure hell. Then he noticed the girl next to him, someone he had never seen before. A moment later, a girl spoke, and Ryota thought that the embodiment of cute Eri Miyama was so sly, flustered, and wondered why she was right in front of him, thinking this was the worst. Eri complimented another girl's nails, and the girl thanked her. Ryota then looked at the downer-type Gyaru, Yuria Ichinose, thinking she was intimidating, nervous, and fearing they would get the wrong idea about him. Sure, he liked big boobs and curvy bodies, but in real life, Gyarus were intimidating. Yuria mentioned their seats were pretty close, and Eri agreed, wondering if Rui-chan arranged it so they would be near each other. Eri called out to her, and Ryota thought Rui Kuroki was definitely the mastermind behind the seat change. Rui greeted Ryota, saying it had been a long time and that they were neighbors starting that day, introducing herself politely. Ryota greeted her back, clearly nervous. Rui smiled, Eri looked confused, and Yuria pointed out that the teacher was coming. The teacher announced that the seat change was finished but warned them not to get too excited since it was only approved because Kuroki insisted. He added that seat changes were pointless and he didn't plan on allowing another one. Ryota thought in shock whether he was really stuck with that seat until the end of the 2nd year. Homeroom ended. Eri asked Rui-chan if she knew Ryota, and Rui replied that they were in the same class back in middle school. Eri responded with a small heh. While reading his book, Ryota wondered if Kuroki even remembered him, annoyed that he was curious about it. He tried calming down and focused on his light novel. Suddenly, Eri shouted that he was reading a dirty picture book, stunning Ryota as he quickly told her to shut up. Yuria stared at him, making him feel judged, and she changed the subject, saying she was buying sushi and asking the others about their plans. Ryota felt relieved, thankful the teasing was over. Rui said she was free since track and field had the day off and asked Eri about her plans. Eri apologized, saying her boyfriend wanted to go to Starbucks after school. Yuria accepted it, and Eri apologized again. Ryota thought how enviable it was, realizing someone like him had nothing to do with that. Later, walking down the street, he thought about what a day it had been and how the jealous stares from other guys were painful. He saw a couple walking, the girl calling the boy pervy, and he muttered internally, "Damn normies." Still, he reminded himself he had the world of manga and light novels, and that day was the release of the LN he wanted. At the bookstore, he found it was out of stock. The staff apologized. Ryota said he understood, thinking it was expected since his favorite web novel, Oppai Sui Boobsucker, was a hot title. He called another store, saying the name out loud while feeling embarrassed, and asked if they had it in stock. The girl on the phone sounded unusually cheerful and familiar, making him wonder if he imagined it. She told him they had 4 copies left. Ryota thanked her and said he would come immediately, and she replied enthusiastically. Ryota was stunned, wondering why she didn't hang up sooner and if she was a new part-timer. When he reached the store, he told the staff he was the one who called. The girl carrying books confirmed about the book, then froze when she saw him, saying it was the boy who sat beside her. It was Eri, blushing slightly and looking tense. Ryota was tense and decided to pretend he didn't see anything, turning to leave. Suddenly, Eri called out to him and grabbed his shoulder, asking if he planned on telling everyone that she had a part-time job. Ryota was confused, and Eri explained that she had permission from the school and worked only within allowed hours, begging him not to tell anyone. Another girl interrupted, saying lovers' quarrels were against the rules during shifts, making Eri blush, and Ryota thought she should at least correct her since he wasn't her boyfriend. The girl told Eri to take a break in the back room, and Eri wiped her face and agreed. Inside, Eri apologized, saying it was her fault. Ryota apologized too, thinking it was too close and that a loner like him wasn't used to being alone with a girl like that. Eri admitted she was terrified of being called poor again like back then. Ryota asked what she meant. Eri explained that her family was actually poor. Her dad had passed away when she was young, and her mom raised her alone. She never had an allowance and went through a lot. Ryota realized she had it rougher than he ever imagined. Eri continued, saying that in middle school when her friends started wearing makeup, she was the only one who couldn't keep up, making her feel left out. She worked hard, saved money, studied fashion and makeup until she could become the cute version of herself, but keeping that up cost money. Ryota asked if that was why she got a job, and Eri said yes. Ryota thought having a part-time job didn't automatically mean being poor. Eri added that she didn't care if people called her poor anymore, she was used to it, but she absolutely didn't want Yuria or Rui, who became her friends in first year, to find out. That was why she pleaded with him, leaning closer. Ryota told her honestly that he respected her. Eri froze, and Ryota explained he had never earned his own money before, so compared to him, she was far more mature. He said he could never look down on someone like her and would never do that. Ryota wondered what he was even saying, and when he looked up, Eri was smiling while wiping her eyes, saying he was actually pretty sweet. She laughed softly, and Ryota asked what she meant. Eri stood up, saying she should get back to work. Ryota asked in surprise, and Eri reminded him he came there to buy that boob whatever book. Later, Ryota was kneeling, thinking he should have been able to buy it, but his opai Sui was gone. Suddenly, Eri leaned close to his ear, asking if he found the book. Ryota said it was sold out. Eri laughed, and Ryota smiled, thinking this was exactly why he couldn't handle extroverts. Eri then slid a book toward him, and Ryota froze when he saw it was opai Sui. Eri asked if he wanted it, saying she set one aside when he called. Ryota was stunned, thinking she was seriously an angel. Eri then asked what her thank you would be for reserving it, making Ryota bow and thank her. Eri repeated her question, and Ryota asked what she meant. Eri said she set it aside with customer service spirit, so in return, he should treat her to something. She wrapped her hand around his arm, saying he should treat her at the cafeteria the next day. Ryota thought that she was definitely not an angel, but a little devil. Eri then asked his name, and he told her it was Izumiya Ryota. Eri replied, calling him Ryota, and said she would be looking forward to lunch break the next day, smiling. Ryota was stunned as Eri smiled slyly. Someone called Eri to the register, and she replied that she was coming, leaving while saying, "See ya." Ryota thought in shock that having lunch with Eri Miyama, one of the queens of the school caste hierarchy, was totally insane no matter how he looked at it. Ryota Izumiya was sitting at his desk in the classroom, thinking that after the seat change, he ended up surrounded by beautiful girls, which sucked for him. Somebody from behind said they were jealous of Izumiya's seat, wondering why that otaku got such a spot when he was only into 2D stuff. Ryota told himself to just focus on his light novel. Then he noticed legs in front of his desk and thought, Looking up, he saw Yuria Ichinos staring at him. He wondered in shock why the gloomy gal Ichinos Yuria was looking at him. Then she said she remembered something. Ryota wondered what that was supposed to mean, and replied with a confused, huh? Yuria then greeted Eri with a, morning, and Eri replied back. Eri looked at Ryota and winked, causing him to think that it made them look like they were secretly dating. Yuria asked Eri why she winked, and Eri said it was for no reason. Ryota put his head down on his desk, wondering what that wink actually meant. Later, Eri suggested they eat, and Ryota replied, thanks for the food. Eri said it was tasty while eating, and thanked him for treating her, apologizing for picking something kind of expensive. Ryota said it was fine, as it was to thank her for yesterday. Eri then asked if he noticed people staring at them. The classmates were whispering among themselves, jealous that the two of them were eating together. Ryota thought he couldn't blame them. While eating, Eri asked Ryota if he was talking with Yuria that morning, mentioning that it was rare to see Yuria talking with a guy. Ryota replied that Yuria had said, I remembered it. Eri asked what she meant by that, but Ryota said that's what he wanted to know too, feeling like it was a pretty high bar for him to ask. Eri suggested that she could ask Yuria for him, but Ryota declined, saying it wouldn't be fun that way. With a smile, Eri offered to tell him Yuria's secret hangout so he could ask her directly, calling it Operation Get Close to Yuria. Ryota was stunned and asked what she meant, but Eri told him she thought Yuria wanted to be friends, and since their seats were close together, they should all try to get along. Ryota suggested that maybe Eri should act as the mediator instead, but Eri refused, saying it would be boring that way. Ryota thought to himself that she was a little devil. Later, Ryota was standing in front of a building, thinking that this was Ichino's secret spot. He guessed if she was a gal, maybe it would be the photo booth area. Tilting his head, he noted she wasn't there, but then he heard some clacking sounds. Turning around, he saw a girl at the arcade claw machine, thinking about her nails as she pressed buttons. The girl was saying, "Milk tan," and Ryota noticed her chest and her thighs and realized it was Ichino's Yuria. She was frustrated that it wasn't going well, and Ryota thought she was really struggling with it. He wondered if a gal like her was going after an erotic bishoujo anime figure for resale. He thought, no way, resale. Suddenly, Yuria turned around, and both of them said, "Ah," in surprise. Yuria accused him of trying to get dirt on her and expose her for going after a figure, asking if he planned to ruin her. Ryota frantically denied it, saying he actually came there to win that figure himself. She was surprised and asked if he was really trying to win it too, covering her mouth with her hand. Ryota asked why she was trying to get that figure and whether she was planning to give it to someone. She stayed silent, so Ryota asked if she was planning to resell it. Angrily, she grabbed his collar and told him not to lump her in with sleazebags, shouting that she was trying to win it herself so she wouldn't have to buy it from resellers. Ryota thought, crap, realizing that resale might have been a trigger word for her. Yuria, frustrated, asked if he was even listening. Ryota dropped a coin into the machine and told her to let go of his hand so he could focus. She asked what he was doing. He told her he had trained solely to win bishoujo figures, thinking claw machines were meant to be won with a gentle touch. Dropping another coin, he declared that with this, he won the figure. Yuria called him amazing and seriously praised him. Smiling, Ryota handed her the figure, and Yuria was surprised, asking if he was sure since he was the one who won it. Ryota said he was only able to win it because she had worked so hard on the machine and that it belonged to her. She was stunned and asked if he wasn't going to make fun of her for being a high school girl into erotic anime, saying no matter how you looked at it, it was weird. Ryota admitted he was surprised she liked an erotic anime, where breast milk shoots out, making her flinch, but he continued, saying he didn't think there was anything wrong with proudly loving what you love. He explained he didn't even use a cover for his light novels anymore because he wasn't ashamed of what he loved, saying that's what it meant to be an otaku. He added that while there was nothing wrong with hiding your hobbies, if you love something, you shouldn't put it down yourself. Yuria was stunned by his words. Ryota thought to himself, what the hell am I saying? I'm bottom of the barrel. He then suggested they both forget everything that happened that day, but Yuria refused, saying she didn't want to because she was an otaku too. Ryota was shocked and asked if she was really an otaku. Yuria explained she wasn't trying to hide it, but it was hard to be open about it in front of Eri and Rui. Thinking about Rui and Eri, Ryota listened as Yuria explained that she was tired of losing close friends over her hobby, so she kept it hidden. She then stared at some girls, and Ryota apologized, thinking maybe he had asked something out of line. Yuria confirmed his name was Izumiya, and Ryota replied yes, thinking she didn't remember it. She came closer, put her hand on his shoulder, and told him not to tell anyone she was an otaku, especially not Eri or Rui. Ryota promised he wouldn't tell anyone. Relieved, Yuria went to her bag and said that meant she didn't have to hide it from him. She took out a book and smiled, revealing that what she remembered that morning was actually the book's title, Oppai Sui. She asked for his line, deciding that he would be her partner for otaku talk from now on. Ryota protested that it was too sudden, but Yuria threatened that if he didn't go along with her, she would tell everyone he had been eyeing her thighs lewdly, exposing him to everyone. Ryota thought, she knows. Yuria laughed and said that from now on, that would be their relationship, smiling as Ryota accepted in defeat. While walking out together, Yuria asked if Oppai Sui ran on the web too since its follower count was insane. Ryota confirmed it, thinking he ended up forming a slightly different relationship with Ichino's compared to Miyama, noting that she was one of the top-ranking Garrus in their class. That night at his house, Ryota lay on his bed, thinking about how surprising it was that Ichino's was an otaku. His phone beeped, and it was a message from Eri asking if he had asked Yuria about that morning. Ryota thought he should cover up Ichino's secret and replied vaguely. Eri messaged back, saying it was probably nothing important and to forget it, then added that since she told him about Yuria, she kind of wanted to try the new frap from Staba as thanks. Ryota was shocked, thinking she already got a taste with the katsu curry, and replied that if it was next week, it was fine. Then his phone beeped again with a message from Ichino's thanking him for today and suggesting they watch a movie next time as thanks for the figure. Ryota panicked, saying there was no way he could go to that. He blushed, thinking about how he had a frap with Miyama and a movie with Ichino's, just the two of them, and how something like that happening in his gloomy life felt unreal. Lying down, he thought this must be what they called a ryaju. He concluded it was all thanks to the seat change arranged by Kuroki Rui. wondering whether it was intentional or a coincidence. If it was intentional, he questioned why someone like him, a gloomy nobody, got placed in such a prime seat, remembering how they went to the same middle school, but never once talked. He thought there was no way someone like her would even notice a speck like him. Meanwhile, at Rui's house, she looked at a photo of Ryota with a small smile, saying, "Hee hee." Ryo was yawning in class, feeling sleepy. He realized he had stayed up late, chatting with Ichinos online. As he dropped his umbrella in the stand, he thought about how she completely changed personality when it came to otaku topics. Someone said, "Ah," and he turned to see Rui, who greeted him brightly, saying good morning and mentioning the rain. Ryo, startled, replied awkwardly and wondered if Kuroki was always this talkative. Then Eri arrived, cheerfully greeting Rui, while Yuria also greeted Rui from behind Eri. Rui asked Yuria if she had been lonely and called Eri to walk with her. Yuria blushed and called Rui an idiot, saying Eri's umbrella broke, so she had no choice but to share. Eri teased Yuria to just be honest already. When Yuria glanced at Ryo and blushed, Ryo thought he had to make sure nobody found out about yesterday. Eri asked Yuria what was wrong, and Yuria brushed it off, saying it was nothing. She said she would head in first, and Rui, smiling, said she saw. Eri asked Rui what that was about, but Rui told her it was nothing and suggested they go too. Rui turned to Ryo and smiled, making him nervous. Later, Ryo sat at his seat with his head down, thinking in panic about Rui's smile that morning. He wondered if she had figured out what was happening between him and the two girls. He recalled Rui was a certified genius who excelled at both academics and sports, and only Eri and Yuria could talk to her at the same level. He feared if she learned he knew their secrets, she would interrogate him to protect them. He panicked, thinking she might have been probing him for information, and muttered that he didn't understand. His phone beeped with a message from Eri asking him to have lunch in the empty classroom on the 3rd floor since Yuria and Rui were busy and she was alone. He answered with, Later in class 3 to 8, Eri called out to Ryo, asking what he and Rui had talked about that morning. Ryo replied bluntly, asking if she really thought he would run his mouth about their secret. Eri denied that and said what she wanted to know was why Rui was in such a good mood that morning. Ryo asked if she really was, and Eri explained that Rui always acted deadpan around boys, like she was looking down on them. But with Ryo, she actually seemed like she was enjoying herself. She said Rui had been like that even on the day of the seat change. Eri sighed and declared that Rui definitely liked Ryo. Ryo was stunned and questioned her reasoning, saying he and Rui had literally never interacted before the seat change. Eri, blushing, smiled and said they went to the same middle school, so maybe Rui secretly had feelings for him back then. Ryo, exhausted, wondered what kind of wild nonsense this girl kept throwing at him. Eri suddenly smirked and said she had a great idea. Ryo immediately felt something bad was coming. Later, Ryo stood at the exit, thinking maybe he should just go straight home today. He wondered what the good thing Miyama mentioned was supposed to be. When he looked for his umbrella, he noticed it was gone. Someone behind him said, "Ah, you finally showed up," and when he turned, he froze seeing Rui holding his umbrella. Rui said she had been waiting for him. Ryo asked if that was really his umbrella, and Rui explained that Eri said she had a date and desperately needed an umbrella, so Rui lent hers. Then Rui realized Eri meant this one belonged to Ryo. Rui added that this time it was, "Rui-chan can't go home without it," meaning Eri dragged him in again. Rui apologized for involving him. Ryo understood what happened but wondered how she even knew which umbrella was his. Rui asked if they should head out together, since they were going the same way. Ryo nervously agreed. Rui commented that he had been using this umbrella since middle school and opened it. Ryo wondered how she even knew that detail. Rui said the umbrella was pretty big, and Ryo offered to hold it. Rui smiled softly and stepped under it, saying, "Excuse me for intruding," which made Ryo blush intensely. Rui suddenly asked if he had gotten a girlfriend recently. Ryo froze and blushed, unable to answer. Rui pressed, asking if it was Yuria or Eri. Ryo panicked, denying everything and saying there was no way someone like him could be dating anyone. Rui analyzed him calmly, noting his panic, fast-talking, and shaking hands, and declared that he was lying. Ryo thought she was like some detective, with her sharp observations. Rui asked why he had lunch with Eri in the cafeteria yesterday, and why he was trying to hide the truth. She demanded he explain how they got close. Ryo, stressed, said he was only thanking Miyama because he ran into her at a store the other day, and she let him have something he wanted. Rui asked again if he was sure nothing was going on with Eri, and Ryo insisted there wasn't. Rui stared for a moment, then smiled softly and blushed, saying she felt relieved. Ryo tensed, wondering why she suddenly said that. Rui explained she was always a perfectionist in studies and sports and couldn't relax unless she met expectations perfectly. She said she was glad he didn't end up becoming Aries and felt relieved. Ryo, confused, asked what that meant. Rui stepped closer and told him that back in middle school, he was the only boy who never confessed to her. Ryo, shocked, asked if he was really the only one and what about guys who already had girlfriends. Rui replied that they only chose someone else because she turned them down, saying it was like choosing a cheaper cut when what they really wanted was Chateaubriand. She said love was cruel, but Ryo didn't even look at the meat, which made him different from every other predator. Rui asked if he liked her too, but was just too embarrassed to confess. As she leaned in close, Ryo blushed and denied it. Rui pressed her chest against him and told him to say he liked her. Ryo panicked, bumped into the wall, and tried to escape, but Rui said they were playing a game she wouldn't move until he confessed. Ryo said it was absurd and tried leaving, but Rui teased that abandoning a girl in the rain was heartless, her face inches from his. Ryo blushed and thought that even if it were Kuroki, being forced to confess felt wrong. He told her to stop messing with him, saying a forced confession wouldn't make her happy. Rui grabbed his fingers and, blushing, said what if she told him it would make her happy. Ryo, flustered, asked what she meant, and Rui said ever since that day, she had always, but suddenly Yuria appeared, scolding Rui for flirting and telling her to pick someone else. Yuria asked why Rui was walking with Ryo when Eri had borrowed Rui's umbrella and they were supposed to go home together. She said she told Rui to wait while she finished committee work, so why was Rui under Izumiya's umbrella? Ryo felt something didn't add up because it didn't match what Kuroki said earlier. Rui stared at Ryo silently before Yuria pulled her away. They left, and Ryo sat on the ground, unsure what had just happened, but it seemed Rui's entire game was cancelled thanks to Ichino's. He decided to go home. His phone beeped. Yuria apologized for acting cold, saying it was for Rui's sake and calling it her bad. Ryo replied she didn't need to worry. Then another message came, and his face drained. Rui had added him and told him to keep everything a secret. If he talked, who knew what might happen? She called him by name and said she'd make him fall for her, so he should be ready. Ryo, terrified, thought this was the opposite of comforting. His phone died, and he sighed, wondering why 3 beautiful girls were after an introverted otaku like him. He realized he was suddenly holding the secrets of 3 of the most popular girls in his class, and his peaceful life was officially doomed all because of one seat change.